on Zoom yet. I think we did a good job last week of raising our hands and kind of being a little orderly, so I really appreciate it. Zoom, people on Zoom meetings also did appreciate that.
Once it's enough.
Okay, well, we're gonna
Right, we would
continue
wanna
to
be
try to
consistent.
improve. So I appreciate that. If I don't notice you, just clear your throat and I'll look over. So, everybody had a chance to look at the agenda. Anybody have any conflicts? Otherwise, we will consider the agenda approved. And Ryder, would you read the minutes of the last meeting, please?
Yep, May 7th, 2024. Board of Supervisors met at 9 a.m. with Jean Hayden, Chair, presiding members present were Schultz, Dozark, Hayden, Mulbauer, and Rossberg. Minutes of the previous meeting were read and approved. The board approved the hiring of Violet Christensen, seasonal Dow House tour guide, Braden Haas, seasonal Nelson Park attendant, Wyatt Johnson, seasonal Yellow Smoke Park attendant, Tara Browner, Yelicia, and Riley, seasonal naturalist assistants for conservation. The board approved the resignation of Lisa Blanc, motor vehicle clerk, and Brenda Tram, motor vehicle second deputy, treasurer's office. The board approved the hiring of Patricia Bermel, temporary motor vehicle clerk, and Molly Bronzana, motor vehicle second deputy, treasurer's office. A motion was made by Schultz, seconded by Rossberg, to approve the Hungry Canyons Alliance project agreement number 24-3 for Stilling Basin Project LHC 5031W, located on a tributary in the middle Soldier River on 160th Street, just north of the intersection with G Avenue. Motion passed unanimously. Kaylin Bishop with Rolling Hills Regional Mental Health and Disability Services met with the board to give an update of services she provides to the residents of the county. A motion was made by Schultz, seconded by Dozark, to approve the tax abatement for 3210 370th Street, Manning, Robert and Megan Rieselman, new home, voting aye, Rossberg, Schultz, Dozark, and Hayden abstained, Mulbauer, motion passed. A motion was made by Dozark, seconded by Mulbauer, to approve the tax abatement for 1624 J Avenue, Charter Oak, Jeff Hast, to use manufactured home. Motion passed unanimously. Motion was made by Mulbauer, seconded by Schultz, to approve the addition of cannot be used upon resignation notice. Okay, cannot be used once a resignation notice is given to the new hire personal day policy. Motion passed unanimously. On motion, duly seconded, the board adjourned 11:18 a.m. Agendas for the next meeting are posted and available to courthouse on Friday, 4:30 p.m. preceding the next meeting.
Sounds good. The question that I have is, there was a little bit of a discussion last week about that, using the personal days. But I really have a hard time of understanding if it wasn't approved by the, how we missed out with our HR people.
I don't know.
Has there been
I
any
wasn't involved.
discussion about that? No? Is that maybe we're gonna call Jack?
I emailed Chelsea, but I haven't heard from her.
Well, that's unfortunate.
I-
Thank you.
Everybody that I talked to is talking to that office, I'm sure. Seems like that's who they're calling anyway now, because she's doing the majority of the work. And I think, sounds like, I mean, I'm not saying Jack's retired already, but it sounds like she's buying it, so I think that's probably.
Well, I just think it's unfortunate that we got, one piece of advice from one and another piece of advice from the other. And information we got from Chelsea that upon department head's approval, department head doesn't approve it, you don't get it. And I just totally think that,
I think if we're more consistent with who we're talking to there, we may avoid that
okay,
dilemma.
I guess I can't cry over spilled milk, so we'll move on. Alrighty.
Get into nobody else.
Alrighty, so reading the minutes were okay. So supervisors report, Dave, I know you haven't been first for a long time.
All right. Yeah, I did have a number of things last week, Region 12 meeting. at the meeting, I had asked about our hazardous mitigation, and it is a 5-year plan. We typically pay 20% every year, so we don't have to pay the whole cost up front. Ours is actually coming due here this year to renew. Chris Whitaker had said that he'll be in touch with us. Fall timeframe is when the renewal will take place. He said, not pretty standard, just go through the process again and get it renewed. There's a number of other counties that need to be renewed also. Then at the Region 12 meeting, we actually had 2 different meetings within the meeting. As executive board meeting was the first one. Things to note, we went through like our vouchers for approval, which I guess you guys want to look at, local assistance report, our transfer report, executive director report. A couple of things I noted down. Schleswig is working on getting 2 homes for Iowa homes. 1 for sure, possibly 2. And then they also have a couple spots for housing rehab projects. So if our towns are interested, they need to reach out to Region 12.
Are those matching funds? City has-
Depends, there's different programs. Depends on which one they qualify for.
Okay.
Some of them, sometimes they go in and they have a house gifted or bought real cheap and they can rehab it and then resell it, get it back on the market. Other times they come in and they do like the condos or the homes for Iowa homes and try to sell them as well. We did appoint a new board member to our intermediate meat and poultry loan fund committee, Abby Howie. That should be a good fit. We'd also talked about, the inmates at Rockwell City that can be hired to do projects, to work. Jessica Garcia actually reached out to the Martin Chase, the inmates, to have them do maybe a cleanup from the tornado. And it was, what they told us was working with maybe some of our other smaller communities to see if they needed help.
Good idea.
I also thought with them,
Pretty
And we-
economic, so.
talked about it
Talk to her too.
in the past where if we need help moving over to the new public health, Martin Chase is the contact. You could hire that, you talk to him, line it up, then they'll get a hold of Region
You busy
12,
next week?
the bus them. What's that?
Are you busy next week?
And I know like Rick Thompson in Audubon County, they used them to, when they had to move, or they remodeled their courthouse, they had to move a bunch of stuff in and out, and they said it works great. Region 12 buses them there, they're very good workers, they wanna get out and do stuff, and
Yeah.
They
so,
bring guards with them, or
yeah, they have supervisors, but
you can get trained to do it. We have somebody in Denison that's actually trained at what Jess told me.
really,
Got trained to watch, if it's a small bunch, get a couple or so.
well, it sounds like they wanna get out and work, cause it, helps them pay their fines and make some money and
Get some out.
gets them out.
It's about.
This is some training too.
The other thing, we had our, Development Corporation meeting right after that, and we approved, 2 loans. One was for a movie theater in Stewart, so they recommended to approve. And then the other one was a meat and poultry loan fund. It was for sister home style entrees in Humboldt. And what's interesting about that one is that they're a single serve order online meals. They're getting out 75,000 meals per month.
What?
And their loan is gonna, for a freezer expansion. And they're thinking that when they do this expansion, they're gonna be doing like 200,000 meals a month.
Where are they out of?
Humboldt. And they can ship them in like a 24-hour radius. But, John Murray, he's a chair of our Region 12 board, and he's gotten for his dad, a lot of retirees, come shipped right to their house.
So they mail them in like, with dry
Freezer,
ice?
yeah, freezer package.
What's the name of that, Dave?
It is, Sisters Homestyle Entrees Incorporated, Humboldt, Iowa. But I had wondered, it's like $8.75 a meal shipped, or it's $6.75 picked up. But, you know, we were talking about even our sheriff's meals. I don't know what it costs per meal. But I could see I'd asked, I mean, something like that where if you don't have a reliable source of, you know, a highly.
875 delivered. 875 delivered.
Probably just need to nuke them then, huh?
I would guess so.
I wonder if you bought in bulk, you know, where you could.
Comes in a little plastic
Let me see.
container.
I was gonna look at it.
But just really interesting how, I mean, society has changed in that, you know, this is blowing up, shipped right to your house, your business, whatever. And I mean, they're serving a lot of people.
Oh, yeah,
But wouldn't you think if you could buy it in bulk, to ship up?
we got 20 selection, 20 meals.
I didn't think. I don't know.
I mean, a lot of times our prisoners are just getting a sandwich and a bag of chips, I think.
And I know there's, you know, there's federal, state law that dictates what you need to serve your prisoners.
Yeah. A little bit. Bet that needs it. I would guess.
The other thing, I did have a phone call yesterday. This gentleman has been in before in the past, and you probably remember Kyle, Randy Mankey. He has chickens and ducks and geese.
Oh, yeah, yep.
And it had issues with one neighbor having dogs come over, vicious dogs, and kill his livestock.
critters.
And
Excuse me.
he had called again. He actually had talked to Roger. However, this is a different neighbor with another dog that is coming over. And just voiced his concern about, you know, he puts a lot of work into what he does and very proud of, you know, what he raises, but just gruntling when you have dogs come over and kill your livestock.
Yeah,
Wasn't that too many years ago, there had been a shotgun blast somewhere about that.
So
yeah. He didn't want to, trying to think back on that.
we had talked about a vicious dog ordinance at that time, and we did not do anything.
I think even these wild dogs or.
We're a neighbor's dog.
See, they might not even, a vicious dog ordinance may not even have included them. It might be your best friend, but they just like chicken
It's like chicken.
really well.
But that,
Well, they like to chase them.
I had somebody call me
Their
about a
instincts.
dog out running around out in the country. And so they called the pound, you know, because it was an older couple. And then, they said, well, you know, you have to have the sheriff bring it to the corner outside of Denison. But then they called the sheriff to come get the dog because they're, you know, I guess the husband's in, but they have to bring it into Denison and give it to the sheriff, and the sheriff has to take it in. So we must not have anything too solid, what we do with stray dogs out there.
Well, sometimes, too, you see if a city has a dog ordinance or that dog gets removed and brought out to the country somewhere and dropped off. I'm not saying that that's the case in this instance, but.
My father's 89 and the dog would pass through his farm once. Right.
Yeah.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah. But he had contacted the sheriff's department. He did not get him. Saying he was gone on vacation and I don't know who he talked to, but he said he did not get very far with them. And
So do we have an ordinance or not?
we do not. And then he did talk to Roger.
We don't have an ordinance. I think it's just, the vicious dog is. How do you define that? Yeah, the definition of a vicious dog is, I don't,
So we have a vicious dog ordinance.
no, I don't think we
We don't
do.
even do that.
No, we don't, because we didn't, we couldn't get over, how's the, is it your word that it's vicious, or is it your word it's vicious?
Well,
Who determines it's vicious?
what about stray dog? Just a dog that's not your trespassing dog, that's on your property.
Got probably 20 or 30 of them out there every night barking, my dogs, coyotes.
Yeah.
We don't,
So that throws another curveball into.
coyotes, yep.
And sometimes,
What's a stray dog?
The
Is that my dog that ended up at your property? Is that a stray
I did
dog?
not invite
Sadly, I
them.
haven't been able to teach mine what a property line looks like.
I don't let mine go outside.
See, my dog Bob, he goes to all the neighbors and they put food out for
My
him.
dog Bob.
That's why I like
So
seeing
he
him.
knows the route then.
Yeah.
I like saying, is that a stray dog when he shows up at that?
No, he's been invited. They're leaving food
They're
out.
leaving food.
So, yeah, so that's why I think we never tackled that, cause we could not. I can
And
understand.
sometimes too, I think, just maybe the sheriff talking to, if there's an issue between the two parties and just saying, hey,
Yep,
Must have solved it the last time. I mean, he was pretty, here's a couple times the last time that happened, so. That talk must have happened and fixed the problems.
right,
it could be similar to our nuisance ordinance in which, you know, the neighbor complains and the sheriff goes out and kind of, we'll see if he can, be amicable and they can clean it up without having to have any penalties. And if-
I think that's kind of what we do now already.
With the dog, but
We'll pass it on to the sheriff and the sheriff goes out there and talks to them and we have all the joys of having an ordinance without having an ordinance.
I guess it doesn't need to be in writing then, so.
I think maybe a little bit of frustration was coming that he didn't feel like he could get a hold of the sheriff.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
when we
well,
talked to whoever at the office,
Buck.
that they weren't very responsive.
Yeah, hiring the right
And
guy.
he ended up talking to Roger himself, and then Roger, I think, went out there and made a point of it, but I'm sure you're already frustrated, and then you call and you get nowhere, and get
Yeah.
hold of nobody.
not in our,
That's a different side.
Right. But I just bring it up that I.
Yeah, very good,
that
yep,
phone
that's
call.
what we do. Got anything else? Otherwise, we'll go to Ty, because Ty's been last a lot lately.
I'm just slow.
I'm actually writing it down now so that I can keep track.
I didn't have a whole lot. The big thing I had was, yesterday I had a or for our ag culture steering committee in Mako, we had our leadership meeting. And basically all we talked about was what kind of events we were wanting to have at the speakers at the annual meeting in July. And I said, just anybody that brings their own air conditioning, you know, we're in Florida in July. Brilliant. Anyway, they say get cheaper rooms and conference rates at that. Well, it's free. Anyway, we're just setting up speakers, you know, the different departments, you know, obviously we're always after somebody from the Department of Ag and we're trying to get stuff in, you know, usually committee members that are like on G.T. Thompson's staff or somebody is the chair of the Ag, try to get their staffers in to give us an update and stuff like that and on where things are going. There's the one particular thing that I've been poking at, you know, on the interstate travel, trying to keep that on there for livestock trucks. And that was pretty much all we really discussed in that. I mean, nothing newsworthy out of that. Unless there's something that you guys would like for, you know, us to push on. I mean, the farm bill stuff, you know, I mean, we've been talking about the better insurance rates for the first time owners and
They talking much about, carbon credit?
not really. I mean, we didn't discuss that at all yesterday. Yeah, nothing at all yesterday. But, yeah, I mean, that's probably. I haven't heard, I'm trying to think of when the last time I even heard somebody talk about that. At an ag meeting. And, you know, well, that was the other thing that I brought up at the meeting is, you know, that if there couldn't be some better programs out there for cover crop stuff, you know, that, you know, even if you did a 10-year program with a farmer, you know, you started out with paying a large portion of their cover crop and just kind of kept going, weaning down until they realized that it's, the cost of doing business.
I'm,
currently that's similar to that.
Yeah.
my when I signed up for a contract is a 3-year contract.
Yeah, 3.
I actually really thought it was successful this year. We had good growth and with all the rains, it really held the fields in place. I mean, it's,
The last couple of years though. I mean,
It's been tough to get.
Pretty wasteful, and then if you didn't get it killed, then it was like. But yeah.
one of the hurdles though is that what you get for it covers your cost of doing it. So it's kind of, a lot of guys are, if it barely covers the cost, I really want the extra work of doing it. So they need to incentivize it more.
You know, like when you were down here, like down where Scott got hit and what have you down there, and you watched them fields that just had terrible washouts. I mean, like, did you see where that had helped you in that?
Oh, big time.
Yeah, see, to me, just 1 year where a bunch of your topsoil takes a ride on the reading down to the Mississippi Delta, to me, that's gotta be taken into account. At least I would be taking that into account. I mean, I get Kyle's point though, when you get your dry years, you spend a lot of time and energy and money
You get
on
nothing out of it.
nothing. Do you have trouble, you said something about you have trouble with killing it. Now, is it get a little resistant to?
Well, it just puts a mat down so bad. Last year was noticeable a lot, and it starved all the moisture out and nothing could get through it. So people that had it last year's really struggled.
Really?
So I mean, every year is a kind of a different beast with it, so.
And how do you predict what year you're gonna have?
You can't.
Yeah,
You
excellent.
can't.
Good point.
It's a management deal. You have to manage it, we had to shut some things down and go spray some rye this spring. It was time to get it done.
Right, I had the same thing, I needed to get it killed off. I did have too, in a management deal, we went around one field with a field finisher just around the edges and then some trails where we hauled cattle manure. And where we field finished and then sprayed, we had a harder time killing it off. We should have sprayed first, but
Interesting. Okay.
I do see, I do see benefits of it.
I think they could probably throw more money at it.
That's what I was getting.
Soil health,
Or something to inspire
Erosion,
more.
weed, I think it even helps with some of the resistant weeds.
Carbon capture.
Yeah,
Takes CO2, real flat.
Grass eats carbon.
I mean, if we can spend billions of dollars on it, there we could spend a little bit on cover crop.
Yeah.
I was actually reading something where just mowing your grass is actually an accelerator towards carbon capture. Because the grass to heal itself needs more carbon. Basically, when you mow your yard, you're damaging your grass, and it's, from its perspective, make it look nice to us, but the grass just said, ouch, but so now it's gotta heal, and in the process of healing, it captures more carbon.
I've never heard my grass speak before, I guess.
Well, I was trying to give it its own voice at the table. That'd be a lot of screaming out there, that could.
Good thing lawnmowers are loud enough, you can't hear
That's
it.
it, okay.
I did not bring up
I just
what you
shut
and
the
I
door and
talked
wash your
about
hands.
League of Cities this week.
Okay, I'll bring that up. Dave and I were talking about this, and actually I've been talking to Paul about it as well over here at CDC, and talked to a couple mayors about rekindling the League of Cities,
Oh,
and really working on some further cleanup of the houses that need some help, and then more business type development. What can your community, like Schleswig's got a general coming, and I mean, that doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's development, it's tax-based increase. Hopefully it doesn't damage the convenience stores intake. But I think mostly your convenience stores are selling the like the mixes and the food stuffs and the gas, and then they probably make some stuff, but it looks like the same candies on the shelf that I see there, for a long time,
I had talked to Chris Whitaker and he was wanting to maybe have us work together with the CDC and his ties on CDC board and get our mayors together. Maybe sometime we'll have to set a date, June, July, and just have an informative meeting in town here. Last time we did it was at Kronk's when Eric was on board, but then they could go through all the programs that Region 12 can offer and help the cities with, and countywide with business, economic development, or homes and whatever, just to have maybe a refreshing of what's available.
oh, good idea.
Well, you know, like the one that Dennison has right now, where they'll give you $24,999 for down payment assistance. That can be a combination of helping with down payment or rehabilitation, new windows and things that it's gonna need. That's a match with the city. You have to put a little of your funds in to get that back.
Yeah.
But they'd have to present that to the smaller communities to realize how valuable that investment for the city would be to get that money to help bring some of these houses, you know. So I would think it'd be great to have mayors together to know what's up.
Mayor, city council, whoever wants to show up, but like Kyle and I, we've had past. You have to have it, you know, engagement. You
Right,
have to have
right.
these communities show up and be interested and see what.
We talked about maybe like having a dinner the first time, you know,
Yeah.
to where it gives them a reason other than just to come to hear a bunch of information.
Even
But
a donut would help.
But, if you had something where, you know, like just, you don't have to do it every time like that. We
Yeah, yeah.
Continue on with donuts, but I mean, have something that, you know, to open it up and to get them, I mean, we've got a pretty new crop of mayors. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of new mayors.
That have been coming to the conference board too.
Yeah,
which
and they've
is
been very, very active.
very active, putting in input and, really.
So we just thought it would be a good time. So Paul and I told Paul to get up after it.
Good.
And so that we can kind of start organizing something and get that rolling. And even if quarterly we had, Chris, you know, we started that with Eric when I first got on. You know, we started where we were gonna have something quarterly. And I think if we try that with this newer bunch of mayors, you know, I think that it might be a lot more. Get a lot more return in time invested there, you know, cause I think, you know, it's just like the prisoner thing you were talking about, where you can bring them in and help. I mean, these small communities, you know, like when you're doing one of them dilapidated houses, that might be very valuable. And they're pretty cost effective. I mean, as far as it goes, they're not free, they're cost effective.
But I also think a Zoom, choice is good for, you know, people that have to come from a distance. If they could Zoom in to just get the basics of what's going on, rather than having to, you know, get done with work and then come to Dennison. I just think you can sit at home and do a Zoom and still get that information.
You don't know if that's Stephanie's or, you know, down at the power. I don't know if it's REC's or we got one through CDC now,
CDC.
traveling owl, that we can take wherever we're
Yeah.
at. So then you could do that Zoom
Good
anywhere.
idea. Is that all you have? Otherwise we'll go to,
Oh, we're good.
okay. Kyle, let's go.
Okay, conservation board meeting last Wednesday night, estimates for the upgrade to Nelson's Park are a little less than what they expected, so that's plan on starting that upgrade to right after camping season. They don't want to tear the campground up, you know, while during the camping season, so instead of electrical and then the revamping some of the spots to accommodate the larger campers, which are being more prevalent nowadays. You know, that park was designed in the '60s, and the biggest camper was probably 20 foot long, you know, so. That's gonna be a nice addition to that down there. And they'll all have 50 amp hookups, so.
It'll be good.
Yep. Siding for the carriage house in Dow City, they're getting that put together and they thought that was gonna be right on the estimated amount to get that siding put on. And, kind of got a memorandum of understanding or working with Colin and, the donors for the new shelter house, enclosed shelter house out there, so. Just try to protect the county's part,
Right.
you can build it, but you gotta meet these engineering stuff and certain things like that, so.
Did they talk about when they're gonna start that?
No discussion on the groundbreaking on that yet. It's just, you know, gotta get some of these paperwork things figured out first, so. I would say the earliest fall of 24, but I think it'd be 25, I think the earliest. I think it was the flooded town of Cherokee on Friday for a meeting. Yes, Center. And, interesting, we got the summit on the line today on the agenda, but there's been some mailers going out for solar farms in our county. I don't know, he,
I didn't get one of them, but
it seems to be anybody that has a major transmission line going through their property, and it's easily hooked to a Mid-American substation. And the company's out of Florida. And, I had a couple people call me on it, and I received one myself, and, you get anybody, just say, seek legal counsel, because it was pretty vague. They wanted you to sign, and it was kind of like, sign before this day.
yeah, anything that's front to hurry, I'm in.
And
I'm always-
it had my whole farm tied up if I was signing it. For
Really?
40 years,
How many years?
40,
4 years.
20-year lease with an automatic 20-year renewal after the first 20.
So that letter was that specific though, that,
Mm-hmm.
How many page?
It was a one-page front and back, sign here, send it in.
so do you have a transmission line on your farm?
Mhm.
You always knew that?
Yeah, yeah. I mow around it all the time, farm around, but anyways. And, I checked with our local NIPCOs and WIPCO, and this is not sponsored by them at all.
Yeah,
But the one contact I made was the legislation that was trying to get through the state house this year, kind of relaxing, and increasing the imminent bill. They're trying, the way it was put to me is they're trying to get as much land signed up as they can. So they can take it to Des Moines next year and say, look at all this land we got signed up. I don't know if anybody signed or not, but,
How
I
much
threw mine away.
was the money on the table right away with what your check was gonna be?
It sounded good. They researched how much they would make off.
Wow.
I actually, from
Never accept first name.
Why, what did you?
sure, if you don't mind. The corn, I think it was from the corn growers or be where they were comparing this to urban sprawl
Yeah,
and how it was robbing us of more of our, because the solar panels, unlike the turbines, take up so much vast more room out there
They do.
and in a field, to generate at this point, what a wind tower turbine will generate, so.
this company seemed to be just kind of the land acquisition company that they have no intentions to build solar farms. They're just gonna acquire the land and then sell them leases to somebody else.
So what, like getting mineral rights?
So, like I said, my letter had at 120 acres, 3 parcels listed on there. And, so there could be a 3-acre lot, but they have rights to drive through the rest of your farm.
But somebody's been doing their research.
So, like I said, I'm not here to discourage people from signing it if that's what they want to do, but I would suggest they maybe get some other outside counsel to look it over.
I agree.
So I bring that up.
I've not heard of that yet, so that's good.
I didn't either.
Everybody that I talked to was directly specific to having a transmission line going through your property and close to a Mid-American substation. So is Mid-American pushing this? I don't know.
Well, like it.
Well, the clues would line up.
Or is that where this company got that?
I've got
information?
Waco substation, a Mid-American
They
substation.
paid
within a half
Mid-America to
mile
get that
of the house.
information.
Yep, so,
That evening reflection down at my house would be terrible.
yeah. Yeah. It was interesting.
Yeah.
How far are we?
Good thing to bring up.
On a half mile.
You don't have transmission lines, it's a problem.
I don't have any though. Oh boy, that evening sun in the summer, if you had a hill full of them, that reflect, that'd be pretty bright.
Yeah, anyways, that's all I had.
All right. Right, you're up.
I missed Wesco meeting last night. I had a graduation to attend for my grandson in Des Moines. So missed it was actually Wesco's annual meeting. But just to piggyback a little bit on what Dave said, is that the hazardous mitigation plan was last approved September 10th, 2020. It's a 5-year plan, so it'll be something we'll have to do in September of, or by at least September of 2025. It is approved by FEMA. I have a copy of it. Terry was good enough to get me into hands with it. I haven't read through it. It's 1,055 pages long.
Well, what's the holdup?
It's for Crawford, Carroll, Sac and Greene County combined, went together, Region 12. Got all the committees together and gathered all the information and did it for every community in every county. Did it then per county, and so it's interesting to read through. They do have an article, a portion of it that is a hazmat incident. And so I think that certainly when we update ours, depending on what happens with the CO2, that will need to probably specifically be in for at least Crawford County. But they do already have, if you're interested, I guess, between June 14th and June 19th, because you can see it's 5 years. Crawford County reported 21 hazardous spills. 71% of these spills do not pose a threat to the environment.
Does it say what type of spills?
To humans, while 14 pose threats to the soil, 5 threaten the air quality, and 3 threaten surface water. Doesn't say what they are, just says what they threaten. And so I think that what I hopefully further, as I read through the document, that it'll say what the actual.
So is that
I mean,
for the last year?
that was for 5 years.
5 years.
5 years.
I'll say I can.
Stuff
Like
like
for
that.
repairs, though, like, even if, do you guys have to even if you have an anhydrous leak, does that have to be reported?
Should
Cause
be.
that's an air quality thing.
Yeah.
So I wonder.
You ever drive by like an anhydrous plant and then the summertime when they're all popping off and like in Irwin?
Yeah, I'm sure them are all part of the reports. If somebody calls that in, then somebody gotta go check it out, so then it becomes reported.
I mean, it says the state of Iowa requires any person manufacturing, storing, handling, transporting, or disposing of a hazardous substance to notify the department and local law enforcement of the occurrence of a hazardous condition. According to the Iowa Department of Natural Resources Hazardous Substance Database, and then it just goes in and does each county what they reported for that 5-year time period.
Was it Red Oak that had the big 32% thing?
I
Spill?
do go up.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping also moving
That's big.
further in the document that it states what each county's plan is, and maybe that's something different, because I was just thinking about, certainly the tornado that went through Minden. If something like that happened specifically in our county, like in the town of Manila, does the county have a plan in place that, okay, here's what our secondary roads crews does, you know, do they show up the next day and start helping? What exactly do we have for in place? What if there's, you know, water? Electrical certainly we don't have any control over, but I mean, is there a specific plan that we have in place that these mayors that we talk about can tell their people, hey, here's exactly what we have. We got a plan, we gotta stick to our plan, and we're prepared.
And I'm not sure about
Who would,
that.
who would you ask?
I mean, I guess I would ask Greg Miller,
That's
would
what I
be
would
our E911.
I will say, I mean,
Emergency
I'm
management.
sorry, go on.
I wanted to speak.
Greg Miller's emergency
Emergency
management, not E911.
That's the one.
Eyes up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And 911 is a kind of a different wheelhouse there, but I think a lot of our agencies, whether it's fire service or the law enforcement in secondary roads, they all got an idea what they'll do. It's the collective effort that we need to work on, you know, and even having tabletop exercises, you know, where Greg or somebody would organize, you know, okay, this is what we do, come together. You gotta have informational leadership meetings before you do the tabletop, obviously, but where you bring everybody together. All right, what are gonna be your main concerns, and what do we need to work on, you know, to inform all the others, because you got the hospital. I mean, if it's a tornado thing like that, because you gotta take into account there could potentially be injuries and even severe injuries. Do we even gotta call Rachel Burns for doing her job as a medical, you know, the coroner aspect? And I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, because they said that, you know, some of the stuff that I was reading about her doing a great job with her investigations. Well, I mean, that's probably gonna be important in that, you know, you're gonna have cause of death probably gonna be from the storm, but I mean, there's just so many things that are involved in that, so I mean. I've kind of publicly stated it, I think we got a long ways to go on that aspect. I think, you know, every different department's probably got their thing down.
Right.
But you know, you know, what's the hospital looking for? What's EMS looking for versus the fire service? I mean, EMS and fire service already work pretty good together. But you know, there's more, like you were bringing up, you know, you can get secondary roads that'll be showing up, and what other departments would Greg call in? That I'm not even thinking off the top of my head right now. I mean, Kyle might have a pretty good idea, but I think we gotta work on that, so, yeah.
I mean, I just was, talking with my daughter since I was in Des Moines, and of course, the governor toured Shelby County. And my daughter just said that Steve Kinkle
Yeah.
was there, and every question that the governor would ask, Steve always, yep, here's what we did.
Yeah.
Here's who handled that, here's who's handling this, here's who's doing this.
Yeah.
And she said, do you guys have a plan like that in place? And I was like, I don't know. Because if somebody can hit that close, certainly can hit here, we're well aware of that.
I think we have the plan and written in place, but I don't know that we practice it enough
Right.
where we'd necessarily be influent in all, and I don't know if you've ever watched our firemen show up to something, I mean, they click on their thing.
Right.
But you know, working, I mean, I remember even hearing discussions when I was still in the fire service, you know, about whose job is it to do this traffic control or whatever, you see what I'm saying? I mean, there's just different things that was going on that we didn't necessarily always have great coordination, you know, and I think those are always things that, even if you get it down this year, if you have a turnover in law enforcement people or fire service people, you know, it's gotta be something you continuously train, because then you still, your memory's not clear on every detail. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I think
So the person to bring in would be Greg and
Yeah.
see what he has in place for a plan,
Right.
coordination with the fire departments, county sheriffs, EMS.
that's why
Um,
there's so much to do to that job.
Right.
It's a tough job to do as a part-time
Cause I
person.
know, you know, just with the tornadoes at the Nishnabotna Cemetery, I mean, you know, Paul was here last week and just said, hey, you guys, I told him, just get the stuff to the ditch and county will take care of it, and they did.
Yep.
I drove by there and it was gone, it was down at our,
Oh, yeah, it was,
where
Amazing.
the rocket storm, a lot of the trees and stuff were down there, so.
And I will say, I mean, gotta give props to Paul and the secondary roads crew and just the firemen and EMS. I mean, everybody was out that night after the tornado had gone through. I mean, Paul called me when we went out, Linda and I went out to go look at the tower. And he said he had guys out scouting the roads to see what needed to be done. And I mean, they were on it like that.
I was down there at 6 o'clock in the morning to go. Amazing.
But it's even something like, you know, after the tornado there, we went down there, we're moving all them hogs, you know, and having to get, because you have to get them out right away. They had no water, no electricity, so their feed supplies were dwindling. And, you know, you get having the secondary roads go out and clean to them hog facility or cattle facilities, you know, to move critters if need be, you know, I mean, so those the things that you don't typically think of. That really emergency management, and I know I've had a lot of good experience, like preparing for ASF, African swine fever, with some of the tabletop exercises that Iowa Pork and National Pork Board put together. And it brought basically everybody that we would bring together in the county to try to create fluid ways to control, you know, quarantine areas and everything. So, I mean, we may have that. I remember when Greensburg, Kansas got hit. I mean, right away, they quarantined that area, you know, obviously there's people's personal belongings everywhere, plus, you know, they're still searching for maybe personal people that are injured or worse, you know, I mean. So there's things like that that's gotta happen almost immediately in a major, you know, Inwood, or excuse me, Minden or
You never
Greenwood.
know, we're gonna have a new sheriff this year, so.
Yeah.
Good
Yep.
timing.
Good time.
Do we know, was it Greg that, like, we were declared a disaster county?
We were not declared. He was going to request. We had a million
We're on the
five.
list, the governor. we
Yeah,
are
the
on the
governor.
list.
Yeah, we're on there.
When I talked to Greg I talked to him afterwards.
It was in an email that came out from
Yeah,
the
that's
governor's office.
I
That's
know,
why I thought we were on it,
Mhm.
but that is initiated by Greg.
I'm assuming.
there was $1.5 million in damage and 20 structures that were damaged, is what he told me. So at that time, he thought because of all the damage in the other counties, we might not make it. So I did not see your email, so I apologize about that.
I even kind of wondered if, like, the torrential rains, you know, how they washed our dirts and or bays and bees, if that, you know, there wasn't some extra money to help pay for all that extra work, because there was extra work going on.
I might get that, declaration that I'm sure Paul will keep track of all the extra time that's spent on them and rehab them, and if it's a event that it can be turned in, he will turn it in. He's always
bet.
been really good at that.
Some of that is, what we talked about in the past, where guys had removed a lot of terraces and waterways and
Those shows this year.
really
Yeah.
shows. Paul said that before all the rain started. We were in Vale. Paul said, this is gonna be very, very damaging with a lot of these practices to our roads and ditches and culverts. and
All
bridges,
area right now, and that's,
Erosion and.
they're getting plugged.
That's all I have, Chief.
That's all you have. All right, Paul should be here pretty soon. I have a meeting tomorrow morning with early childhood Crawford and the BV, trying to get all of our RFPs out for our different programs that we have. Did a survey that went out and it was like this thick to go and make sure that all their RFPs have everything we need to those awarded, so.
Mike, when you on board? Mike, you still on board?
Yes, yes, very active,
Yeah.
never misses, a really good guy. I've gotten an email from Caitlin, kind of an update of what's going on with this.
And I will say for entertainment purposes, someday when we are looking for time to kill,
Okay,
up to 9:45, I have, the very first document ever entered in the supervisor minutes dated September 3rd, 1855. And I will read that to everyone someday.
I will start with you.
No, I'm just gonna use that for when we're trying to
Very good.
Eat up a
to
eat
know.
up a little time.
Yeah. Were you killing time here waiting for me?
No, really, we
No,
weren't. We were
No.
discussing you though,
Yeah.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, we were.
So, that's kind of interesting that you bring that up, this morning, because I have some interesting historical stuff to share with you guys as well. So,
We enjoyed
doing a
it.
little house cleaning and stumbled across a couple of things I thought were pretty interesting. Anyhow, nice day, beautiful spring day out there. Dixon, talked to Seth last week. Of course, with the rain, everybody's behind schedule. So they're probably late June, early July now, as opposed to late May, early June.
Estimated time, once they get started on that, you think, Paul, 8 weeks?
Oh, no, that'll take longer than that. This is a 3 to 4 month project. So,
Yes, that question will be
Yeah.
posed to me.
yeah, under normal conditions. It's, normal weather, normal contract, they're good. They'll get in there and get right after it. Vanilla maintenance shop, and we're waiting for the overhead doors. They were supposed to be installing them, but they apparently didn't get ordered, so they're waiting for those now. And of course, they don't want us to install electrical and plumbing and stuff in there with the doors wide open. So we're kind of at a standstill right now.
Did they give you a time frame when they?
That one, yeah, as soon as possible. So that's kind of where we're at there.
They haven't said that due to COVID, we can't get things and it's taking.
No. That was interesting call to a government office last week, though. Due to COVID-19, many of our people are still working remote. I'm thinking to myself, wow, they're still playing that chord 4 years later. Interesting. But, yeah, that's
So crazy.
the life where we live. Great crew, working on any avenue, going really well, in between rains. We need the rain. The rain's been good, but it does slow things down, so. Bridge crew, they got the work done down there to shop in Manila. And so they did the pad for the new fuel tank, did the drainage connections. So just doing excellent work, so it's all good. But they're starting on that bridge over at West Side. It's a truss over there that goes to those just two residents dead end road. So we're gonna take and put that DOT temporary bridge in there here in the next several weeks. So that'll be interesting to see how that kind of all comes together and unfolds. So see what happens. Roadside seating, some of the seating, and we got those heavy rains. It wasn't all that good for that, but we didn't have a lot of erosion. We're getting a lot of good growth. So it's growing.
Question on that. Something that was asked to me last night, hydro seeding, that's cost.
It's expensive. It's very
It's
expensive.
compared to
Yeah.
what though? I mean.
Yeah. I don't know what other options you have
I
on
mean,
some of these steep slopes.
Good, as I said, it works good for what we're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
I said it's gotta be somewhat cost effective to have it done that way. Never thought of that. You couldn't do it other than be able to see it.
I don't know how you see it. Yeah.
Got a little overhand.
Yeah.
I suppose that's probably how they used to do it.
And it probably did, but then, you know, I mean, the mulch, it's expensive. That's why I'm shopping around looking for different mulch sources, different
Mhm.
options, getting drop shipped semi-load quantities. Yeah, because it's gone up, you know, it's expensive. The seed's expensive. I mean, what we do, the grading projects, the ditching projects, you have to seed them.
Don't have as many of them.
You know?
Paul, have you ever talked to anyone about seeding them with drones? Cause you know, like Irwin Co-op, they have a vendor that does a lot of cover crop with
Yeah.
drones. I'm just curious if that would be
Yeah.
an application that would work.
We haven't, you know, again, I think the mulch just adds this extra, you know, and there's a seating right down the street here. The new house just down the street from the courthouse. You look at that. That was seeded about 3 weeks ago. Look at it today.
Hydro seeded.
Hydro seeded.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I talked to the guy that did that. He uses a wood fiber mulch. I said, man, that's the nicest seating. I mean, how, that is awesome.
Use the wood fiber.
He uses a wood fiber but versus the paper fiber, which is a little more expensive. But the paper fiber, I mean, the mulch actually sticks the seed, you know, it holds it there in place and it keeps the moisture, you know, it's
It works
you know,
like a
it's with
straw.
the mulch. Yeah, and so it enhances, you know, your seeding, but it comes at a cost. I don't know, yeah, I don't think you can do that with a drone. I mean, there's some, you know, certainly some
Just figure it
perhaps
out.
value there, but, I mean, if somebody's got a better way, I'm sure it's open for suggestions, but I think what we've done works, but it's.
Well, I think our system works
Yeah.
fine. I was just curious on
Yep.
cost.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you put everything in it, it's probably $1,000 to $1,200 an acre. The seed, the mulch, the time, everything.
Seed's got some expensive.
Yeah, yeah, and we use a lot of seed, so we don't have to go back and do it a second time. So.
And that's key with our less soils to get that stuff established and get roots down.
Yeah, yeah,
So you don't have a big root and
Yeah.
they come back and fix,
yeah,
refix.
yeah, it's expensive.
So with
That
all
might be a
that
little on
said,
the high
it's
side, that's what we
probably-
use for when we do reversion, so that's probably a little on the high side.
Well,
It's still expensive.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
so,
It's more expensive than going out there with a tractor, drill and drill.
oh yeah, we try to drill everything we can. You know, and then just leave the hydro seeding for the steep areas that we can't get on. Yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
Yep. The recent rains on Lovely roads, I mean, they're a mess. They need to be bladed, and so, you know, that's kind of let's get out, let's get those Lovely roads, you know, on some of our gravel roads, and it's real spotty too. I mean, not, you know, there's parts of the county that are in great shape, and other parts that got hit really bad that are bad shape.
Or the wash rate.
Yeah, I mean, level Bs are bad, some of them nearly impassable, but, you know, our goal is to try to get out there now that it's starting to dry up and get them shaped up so guys can get in there and use them.
The ones I called you about were, they were worried it was so flat, they thought it was causing a lot of the
Yeah,
tiger claws and
what
stuff.
happens is those level Bs tend to, you know, they get little ridges and in the water, they tend to be a waterway then.
Yeah.
So then you gotta get reshaped and get the water to the ditches and not running down the middle of the road. So,
Either way, you get washing though on a level B.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, put a little bit more of our reclaim, but they're still.
Yeah, we're running
Have to go out.
and we're running out of that, so, you know,
Yeah.
trying to stretch that as far as we can. Sea Avenue upgrade, Chair Johansson, I think, bought a hog confinement from, I think it was the Bonsons. But anyhow, so this is north and it'd be upgrading this portion from this location to this location, so about a half a mile in between this road and then this is located up here. Yeah. Let's see, I think it's.
Is that like Wake's old site?
Yeah, I think it's right here. But anyhow, we created, and this is an old map, it's 2014, but we created a hog confinement in here.
Yeah.
And so there's like this chunk in between, and we graded to the hog confinement, so. So the question is, I think he's coming in the other direction and, you know, wants to get to it, is, you know, in the past, we required that the landowner pay, the requesting party, I should say, would pay 100% of the cost of the upgrade, which is grading, seeding, aggregate. You know, and we've done so many of these level B roads that people come along, and Kent Lansing's a good example down there, and said, well, hey, you're already grading it, why don't I just pay for the gravel and make this a level A? Well, I'll make sure we're all on the same page. If I say to him, hey, well, you know, we hadn't planned on grading that, we could, if we're gonna make it a level A, we need to grade it.
Yeah.
Okay, there's no trees there, it'd be minimal grading, and then he would pay the cost of the aggregate.
Yeah, it's,
So we've kind of migrated that way, just because of the fact that we're upgrading all these level B roads. I mean, back in the day when we were doing this up here, and you know, around Schleswig, when they did the wind turbines, I know we upgraded this level C road, or this was a level C, that whole mile, or half that mile. And they paid 100% of it, so.
You think it's an improvement to our whole system, Paul?
It is, and if, you know, if they paid for 100% of the gravel, the aggregate, this is not a terribly difficult grading
So that's
project.
basically what we did down at
Lansing's, pretty much, yeah.
Did you say
That
it's
turned
about
out
a
That turned out fantastic.
Yeah,
mile?
about a half mile.
About half a mile.
Yeah, yeah. So before I tell them to pay, just pay for the gravel, and we'll get it graded, but we're not gonna put it on there and convert it until it's graded. Because then the snow removal's much easier.
Sounds good to me.
Okay,
Okay,
sounds good.
Much easier non-existent. I like that.
What's that?
Move the snow removals from either or not.
Oh, it was non-existent, yeah, absolutely, in some of these level Bs that we've graded, there is no snow, it blows right off.
Blows right off.
Yeah. Gravel haul, we're gonna start that up in 2 weeks, hard to believe that that's almost here already, but, getting everything kind of in place for that, we'll start up at Anthon, go from there to Stratford. And I think it'll depend on what's going on at 39, but we're probably gonna end up going down to, Sparks Pit down by Dedham first, because we got 39 work going on up here and just staying away from the construction. So. So that's coming up soon. The crew started working 10-hour days. Yesterday was the first 10-hour day. You know, so. It worked really good last year. I think everybody was pretty happy with it. I don't know. I don't think we got too much negative feedback from the
Nope.
citizens, and so,
and the employees liked it?
yes, yep.
It seemed like it was a win-win.
Yeah, so that's kind of, just so you know.
Did
You know, I understand. I've heard a lot of guys say they feel like they get more done because they're not packing up to head home earlier, you know, you get that extra
Yeah,
couple hours.
yeah, so it's working out. The Manila property swap, I know Martha is working with Alan Nepper, who's the attorney representing city/utilities down there, so we're working on getting the deeds, and then once the shop is all done, we can move into it, we'll just do a deed swap, and they'll get our old building, and we'll get those 2 lots. So,
good deal.
yeah, so that's kind of being worked on. Area and ditch work, Denny tonight called, I don't know if one of you has time after the meeting, right along down, I was gonna go down there and meet with him. We do periodically do ditch work in the towns. You know, I try to kind of encourage them to maybe get a contractor to do it, but. So anyhow, I told them we'd have to bill for it. But unless you guys see otherwise, but I think it's something that we would consider. Want to take a look, see who's got in mind. But if anybody wants to, I was gonna go down there.
I got a meeting with CDC after this, but I do have a question about that. They said that they're having a lot of their trouble with water escape from the areas because they have trouble working with the railroad.
And that could be.
I mean, you got any inside information you can hand them?
Not with the railroad.
Best to try.
The water needs to drain.
Not with the railroad.
Yeah.
I mean, we were successful working with the Canadian National out here by Joe's Welding and getting a pipe bored underneath it there, but we basically had to kind of, you know, a matter of kind of stumbling across the fact that there was an old one there that got gotten covered up and blocked, and then we were able to get them to put a new one under there because there was a liability there, you know, it had been blocked, and so.
Well, you'd think they'd want to, because if you got a real bad rain, it could wash their tracks out right there too then. So you'd think they'd.
Yeah.
Oh, what's that old saying? There's federal law, state law, and railroad law.
Yeah.
Pretty much, they were here first, so.
Yeah, they brought it to their attention, though, that it's.
And then,
they have talked.
Depending on, I gotta make the landfill deal, I gotta do an exit survey for audit, otherwise I would, kind of long that.
and nobody has to go. I mean, I'll go down there. Everybody's busy, that's fine. Yeah.
None of that other
Yeah.
stuff, just.
That's fine. And then, Hungry Canyons meeting, the next one's gonna be here in Crawford County.
Cool.
May 31st in Charter Oak at the Community
Oh.
Center, so if you're
What day
interested,
is that?
it's May 31st.
Friday.
And it starts at 10, and then we'll be doing a tour of projects within Crawford and Ida County.
I would like that.
And so, and then you get a finish with a Steelers chicken dinner.
I need to mow up when they put that drop inlet by my house, I need to mow that all up.
We won't be going to that one.
Oh, maybe want to
We won't
show.
be going to that one, but anyhow, yeah, so it's be a nice tour. Okay,
All right.
and then, last, came across, I think, I don't know that Fire Beach, Jerry, so.
I'm sorry.
I get you much on one, but, that I thought was really interesting. That was done in 1972. And then, the other thing I came across was Iowa roads and roadway widths, which is a really, really interesting dissertation on, going all the way back to 1838. And on why roadway widths are what roadway widths are, and kind of a legal things there, in light of some of the things that challenges we've had with, where's the right of way at?
Is this explained, cause, yesterday I was having a conversation with a gentleman, why is 33 feet?
Well, that has to do with the calculation.
Coming across the
Yeah, it
Masonic or anything like that, is it tied to the Knights Templar? or-
probably somehow, somewhere
You know?
along the way. But everything is divisible, by 66. I mean, you have 660,
Right,
just feet, 10 acres is, I think, 660 by 660. But it all comes down to feet and miles, or acres, and then the acre conversion. So there's, an acre and every quarter section, 33 times 1,320 is your, 43,560. And so it all kind of, if you start looking at the math and the surveyor's math, everything kind of fits together like a glove.
right.
So,
Like some of the places, I don't think there's anything on our roads, but like on some of the state roads, 66 feet kind of only starts to describe what the right of way is,
well, and so most all of our right of way is taken by easement.
Yeah.
And most all of the state highway is in fee title. They own it. They own the land. We don't own the land.
Yeah.
So we vacate it. And that's why I say is that a petition is the birth certificate to a roadway. What we're gonna do here next week, when we vacate, is the death certificate. Okay, that says we created it, now we're done with it, we're ending it. And this is saying our interest in that is gone. And so our interest is only in the form of an easement. And we have senior right there, so when utilities come along, we only issue them a permit. We don't give them an easement, because we don't have the authority to give them an easement. We have the authority to allow them to occupy our safe space, but not an easement. And so that's come to rise with the guys back here. And that we don't truly grant an easement, and then utility status, utilities, the attorney generals has said, you have to accommodate the utilities, by law.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because it's for the greater good of the public. Water, electric, telephone, those are all serving the public. So it makes sense for us to accommodate
Yes.
their presence in our right of way, as long as their accommodation doesn't interfere with our senior right, which is a roadway. So when private entities come along and they want to occupy it, we've allowed it in certain cases, but it's a little different than utility. So,
That's what we're all like.
if a guy's got a well on the other side of the road, are you gonna deny him the right to go across the road to get connected to his well? Probably not.
Harmless.
Okay. So, but this, I thought was a really good.
Yeah.
dissertation, there was one in there early on, it said they wanted 5% for state and county roads. And we went to schools instead, that was in the 1850s. Did you see that? I don't know if you saw it.
I haven't had a chance to
But,
read it all, but it's in.
But it's some interesting stuff, and then the Highway 30, that's why I wanted you to see that.
Yeah.
I mean, Glidden to Carroll was supposed to be done in 1972, and from Carroll to Denison was supposed to be done in 1979. It's supposed to be 4-lane, and they showed the route, kind of a generalized route there, but this is really interesting, because 1972, I mean, I drive 35 north of Minneapolis to see our son all the time. And, I wasn't there in 1972 when that map was done, but they did it in 74, I understand, so.
That's pretty cool.
So it's an interesting map.
Very.
They're kind of their goal of where they wanted things to go, and I don't know how much of that actually got done on there. But it's some interesting things to look at.
All right, well, thank you.
20 of them be pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 20, they got after
They
that.
followed it right to the letter.
Yeah, the biggest challenge today is right-of-way acquisition, environmental impact.
Exactly. And that's part of their problem over there in Eastern, that was there's one of the big parks over there. And that's where the environmental, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Huh.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That's pretty nifty.
Yeah,
Have a good day.
all right, appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Request.
All righty, so we are down to discuss take action on liquor license for 5 Mile House.
Motion approved.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? I'll call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Chair votes
5
aye.
Mile House to have.
5 Mile House, Joe gets to serve some alcohol. Discussion take action on liquor license for Lucky White Wine Slushies.
I'll move.
Second.
Any further discussion?
They come down.
Otherwise, I'll call a vote. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Lucky White Wine Slushies. Give the salad. Discussion take action, estimate for weed control on West Jail lawn.
That was in our package.
Yep.
Yeah, the buffalo grass that was planted there, I don't even know when. It doesn't come up until it gets warm enough to, so we experience weed growth. I asked, Jared, or no, Jordan, to come and just take a look at it. He's a new, turf and pest person in the area. Anyway, and, he did a quote for us for weed control in the buffalo grass. And then he would come, winter to late fall, to do a pre-emergent application. So then next spring, we shouldn't see the weed growth, hopefully. And, at that time, that would kill the patch of fescue that we have. And we have a patch of something else, chrome. I can't remember what he said. I haven't looked out there in a while, so. Anyway, and initially we did the buffalo grass. We did the buffalo grass because it's such a steep bank. So that way our custodians wouldn't have to get on it with a lawnmower very often. They still need to with the buffalo grass, maybe once a month. And at some point we, may need to consider doing.
I think it's helpful.
Something more radical, I
Yeah.
guess.
Well, we were gonna go down that road and it was.
I mean, even artificial turf or something, artificial, you know what I'm
We
saying?
ever discussed our.
Nope, I don't think we did.
And we discussed a retaining wall at the time.
Right.
That was very costly.
Hugely expensive.
So what's the, I didn't,
$360 is the cost.
that's too bad.
Nope, not bad.
No.
So I just didn't.
Any guarantee that comes through that? That they'll kill it or
Guaranteed you'll get it
I can
done.
collect it. Guarantee, but it's a
I
good.
don't know if you can guarantee you get all the weeds. I move to approve.
All right. Is that a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Otherwise, I'll call the vote. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? All righty. Triple sign, it's approved. All right, get that done. All righty. Discussion, take action, update pipeline possible ordinance. So we thought it was good to get that back on our agenda. It's been a while since we've discussed it. Some things have changed a little bit with the pipeline. It's my understanding, things are moving along as it goes to South Dakota. There was a leak recently. We all got the article from Louisiana where they had a leak and there was no real notice. And it kind of comes to what the federal government is putting in place as far as emergency warnings is not working out very well. So we just thought it would be time. No, Colin's not here. Did he say anything about coming or is he in court today?
I didn't ask him.
Oh, okay. Well, he
Didn't know I
has.
was supposed to.
All right, well, I guess I could have. He has looked at the ordinances from Dickinson County and from Palo Alto County and has kind of, indicated that between the two of them, there could possibly be something that we could put together. But it's also been brought to our attention that if we don't get this done before the IUB board makes their ruling, then it'd be too late to get anything done. And if you look through the manual for county supervisors in Iowa dated January 2023, the number one sentence on page 1, chapter 1, is under our form of government. Iowa counties are empowered to perform any function to protect and preserve the rights, privileges, and property of the county or its residents, and to preserve and improve peace, safety, health, welfare, comfort, and convenience to its residents. It's all one sentence. So I just think that it's pertinent that we really do our best to make sure that we're keeping our county safe. We have a hazardous pipeline coming through Crawford County, and it's coming very close to some of our residents who didn't sign a lease or an agreement. They just find it coming close to them. So I believe it would be on us to make sure that we have something in place to protect those individuals within the law, what the state allows us to do. So that's.
Does Colin have anything drafted at this point?
He did have a while back, and last time I talked to him, he said that there's doors that they're going through, so he's just really trying to make sure that we're doing exactly what we need to do. So he has told Dickinson and Palo Alto.
We have it as discuss and take action, but do we have anything to?
We had it that way just in case Colin did have something. So it's better to discuss and say we could take action if we found it necessary than to just have it on as discussion and wish we could take action. So that's why I did it that
I'm
way.
gonna run over and grab Colin, see if he's free.
I will.
He's-
What did you go now? I could call him.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna assume this is brought back to the surface due to what just happened in Louisiana.
Yes.
How much of this is us and how much of this is PHMSA needing a kick in the backside, That's my question. I mean, granted, our responsibility is to our citizens. I get that, but I mean, we've already been told that safety is not our wheelhouse. I mean, and we can draft all the legislation or ordinance we'd like. Sorry, got a little bit higher for myself. We can draft all the ordinance we'd like, but once again, it could come down to where it's a pursuit for violence. I mean, it wouldn't do us any good. But I am concerned with what read in that article, I mean. So, but to me,
I
that's,
think just from a reporting standpoint is what
yeah,
kind of alarmed you, or at least alarmed to me, was that when it took 2 hours
Mhm.
to be notified.
And we
To
even
me-
spoke with these guys about
Right.
that, what happens in the event of an emergency and their alarms kick off over names and obviously maybe that's just something we ask to we see now something that happened, what do we make sure that doesn't happen in the future?
Well, I think
Do we
that-
work more from that angle at this point? I mean, you craft an ordinance if you'd like and bring it to the board, but I still would like to make sure that we're looking after this, the safety and the way that we can to ensure it actually happens. If you see what I'm getting at? Does
I
that
mean,
make
if you
sense?
can't outlaw it, then if it's here, how do we still make it safe for citizens of Crawford County?
No. Well, that's
From an
just it.
alarm standpoint, I mean, Kyle has said, we have hazardous materials driving up and down Highway 30,
All day.
59 every single day.
Mhm.
And so we just have to have a plan in place in case something happens.
Well,
And
that's
we
why I
don't.
kind of wonder if we're working with the pipeline and say, let's improve where we see weaknesses in the system. I mean, let's not wait on PHMSA. I mean, obviously, they're not, there's things legally that they've got to still be careful of, but I mean, what can we do to expedite the warning order?
And that's why we keep having to put it back onto our agenda,
Mhm.
so that we are staying aware of what's going on and staying updated with the things that have changed since last we got together. And, you know, in this article, the lady basically says it shouldn't be dependent on her kitties to let her know there's something going on. You know, there was no sirens, there was no warning.
I mean, does anybody
Back
know,
to our emergency
currently
management.
we have 2 huge CO2 tanks out of Continental Carbonics.
We do,
If a semi would go off the road and hit one of them and it would burst, what plan is in place? I mean, do we know what Continental Carbonics, the first thing that they're gonna do?
Well, I'll bet you
No,
the.
you can't shut that off. There's not a valve on that.
Oh, no, you're right. And you know, the emergency management plan that you were talking about earlier was probably not, we weren't worried about carbon problems at that point.
Right.
So that's something we got to,
thanks for coming over.
No problem, morning, everyone.
Yeah.
you know, having a plan in place.
They were asking about the ordinances that we had discussed, you know, it seemed like a month or so ago about Dickinson and Calto.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't have it done. I think the way forward is for me to get you guys a draft, and then I think it would be wise to schedule a closed session meeting after it gets close to being done, before you guys take a vote on it.
Okay.
I think the potential for litigation is high, and so I think a frank closed session meeting on a finished or near finished product would probably be the way to go at this point.
Okay. We can come.
Just as you're working on this draft, is it really orientated towards safety?
No,
No.
no, because that's what got Story and Shelby County into trouble.
Yeah.
The new focus is more on economic development.
Okay. Well, I just wanna make sure, cause as a board, I mean, we have to be concerned about the safety and of our citizens, but we also can't restrict the people, the citizens that are in favor of something. Am I right?
No, yeah, you're right.
We
And
kinda gotta walk that fine line down the middle for the Tim Ballmans to be, you know, they're fighting for me. And then
and that's where,
all outhouses that would have, want it, he's like, hey, I can live with what they're doing, that seems fair. No, that's what I think we really need that to be, we can't be so restrictive that it's obviously gonna end up in court.
Why we kind of take.
That's why I
the
asked.
safety and setback route has been explored by other counties. And those have made its way to final decisions by federal courts. And those have been ruled against the counties. And so this next wave of ordinances by other counties has naturally shifted away from safety because the federal courts have kind of already spoken on that issue. And I don't want to talk about this as we're just kind of plugging in something else and really meaning something else. I mean, I think economic development and city expansion is a viable option, it's a viable concern.
First comment.
Yeah, it's not just trying to be cheeky and replacing one thing and plugging in and just calling it by another name.
Crawford County's had a plan out there since I believe it's 1978. The city of Schleswig has a plan out there. And then you discovered a ordinance that was out there since 1981. Remember your hazardous material?
Yeah, I don't know what that says.
We've been trying to find it, but you found that was approved. Have we had any look at it all, or would we go look
With what?
the ordinance that he found from, I think it was 1978?
Yeah.
How would we find that?
I think that was just to implement a hazardous mitigation plan.
Right,
And that brought us all the way to this document that's,
which is our
was
current
dated
plan.
2020.
Okay,
That I think it just morphed. It started maybe as Crawford County by itself, and then the counties collaborated and got together. And is currently what we have in place now that's in combination with Carroll, Sac, and Green County.
What's kind of your time frame?
Well, I apologize for not having it today, so you tell me my time frame. What do you guys want?
next week?
Sure.
So we'll have that on the agenda to discuss and, go into a closed session to discuss the possible
Can you
mitigation.
give me the language and
Yeah.
the can section, please?
If I
Thank
may
you.
interject,
Yes, please.
I agree that something needs to be updated. And I think that in my review of the most recent Dickinson County ordinance, it was the information requirement by a pipeline company to notify the county that this was their intent. And then there would be information that goes out to the county. Because to my knowledge, the only people that know about this are the ones that are directly affected, where the pipeline is gonna go on their physical property. If you're an adjacent landowner and you're within the kill zone, heck with you, it's not on your property, therefore, by the IUB definition, you are an unaffected landowner. So they have 190 residences in the county that are within this 1 mile kill zone. And whether you argue that, oh, it's gonna be an 8-inch pipe, or no, for the exhibit H, they're just gonna put in a 24-inch pipe, that drastically changes what kind of a setback is going to affect those adjoining people, whether they're on the route or not. I guess as I understand it, any ordinance that would go into place in the near future, and hopefully the near future, that would then protect those people that have not signed. So the concerns I get when you're saying, well, we have people that are for it, okay, they've made their decision already. They've signed. As far as I understand, this has no bearing on theirs, even though I feel for those people, because to my knowledge, they weren't informed of the safety concerning the plume modeling, what can happen with this. It's just ludicrous to me that we're trying to cope with this hazardous liquid pipeline. And our EMS people are unaware, they don't have the training, costs $6,300 per self-contained breathing device. It's, oh, well, we're gonna pay for that, well, then show me the money. Where's the writing, where was this plan back in August of 21? It just infuriates me that we have a tail wagging the dog. They went out, Summit went out, procured these easements. Landowners had very little knowledge. The knowledge that they were given was, in my opinion, largely hyped. Of, oh, doom and gloom for the ethanol industry. If you don't do it, we're gonna sign, we'll take your land by eminent domain. And so it's like, oh, we gotta get something. And now as all the facts have come out and so forth, it seems as though all of the major emphasis of why this project is needed has been reversed. Okay, well, it's not gonna save the environment, because now we're gonna be going on to the aviation fuel. Wait a minute, you told people that this was going to be sequestered and kept there forever. Well, plans changed. Well, that easement doesn't change, it's forever. Those people are stuck with that. And if they had been given the opportunity to say, oh, I've got to sign a paper that says I'm going to release myself or the pipeline company from liability because it's a hazardous liquid pipeline. Maybe I better check into this before I just randomly sign these.
Like, since you're speaking about the aviation, clarify what you're talking about there, because I mean.
Okay, as I understand it, with the new lines that are being added through the Valero and the Poet plants, we now are going to be using this resource of carbon dioxide so we can manufacture sustainable aviation fuel.
I don't think that's accurate.
Pardon? It is 100% accurate.
They're gonna use the carbon to make the fuel?
Correct.
That's not correct. We're lowering the CI score of these ethanol plants.
Sure.
So their ethanol qualifies for the sustainable portion of the aviation.
And is all of that going to be pumped in the ground in North Dakota and stay there?
Yes, they will have their own capture facilities at Poa and Valero. It's the same process.
And so we're not gonna use them for fracking? No.
No.
Oh, that's a yes.
Well,
Because Summit has said in their, plea to North Dakota and South Dakota, we've gotta have more carbon dioxide so that we can frack. And keep the bulk fuel, oil fields, producing.
so I think there's documentation out there that's not correct. You guys have documentation on that,
Oh,
that they're not?
Stay on.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, let's stay on what we can affect.
Yeah, we probably better.
So my point
I have
being,
a-
my point being is, we have asked the state to intervene. It already is in our constitution that if you are a private entity, you can't claim eminent domain. And that, I will be quite honest, if people want to have an easement, they want this pipeline going through their land, they're landowners, landowner rights, more power to you. I choose not to. So then when they say, well, we're gonna take your land because you don't want to be a cooperating partner, that is instant dismissal. So here's the deal. If we have a law already that states that, but yet we're threatening it. And then now with IUB having the ultimate decision of 3 people in the state, we had our Iowa House pass 2 bills on majority vote 2 years in a row. Our Senate and governor, so they were their hands tied and mouth shut. You folks, I've heard through many meetings that I've sat through, are frustrated that the state keeps taking away your power. I'm advocating, you represent the citizens of Crawford County. Please protect us. And if you're gonna be worried about a lawsuit, what about the opposite of that if we do nothing as a board? And there's a potential or catastrophic event, what's that gonna cost?
All right. It goes kind of to our county home rule that we try to go by. I'm gonna call on one of my Zoom people. Thank you very much. Bonnie?
Yeah, good morning. I just want to add a couple of things here. One, the incident was that the recent incident, was that in Louisiana? That was an
Yes.
above ground leak. And it was something about a pig. I forget what PIG stands for, but it's what they use to clean the lines. And that's where the leak developed. And I just want to point out that Crawford County is slated to have a launcher receiver site in the county. Actually about 3 miles south of our farm on the Mark Beck property. So you will have a similar structure in Crawford County. I just want to point that out. And also, I live in Dickinson County, so I was at several of the meetings that led up to their ordinance. And I just want to let you know that at first the supervisors were reluctant to do an ordinance, but they decided that they needed to investigate this because the pipeline was running so close to the Spirit Lake watershed and the Iowa Great Lakes. And in one incident, it was going right through a family's front yard, about 150 feet from their house. So the supervisors did the right thing. They listened to us, and they also went and talked to Summit and the ethanol plant over in Superior. Summit didn't want any ordinance at all, and they have threatened to sue Dickinson if they passed it. So, but the compromise they reached on the 1,600 feet was agreeable to the landowners, and 1,600 feet setback was agreeable to the landowners and to the ethanol plant. It's doable. And the board, the process, this had to go through the planning and zoning board, and it had to have hearings before the board of supervisors. I think they were supposed to have 3 hearings, but they had 1 hearing and waived the other 2, and it was a unanimous vote to pass this ordinance, even though they were under the threat of being sued. And I'd like to point out that one of the supervisors on the Dickinson County Board is, he's very much in favor of the pipeline, and yet he voted in favor of this ordinance. So it is a compromise. And just for the record, it had to be published in the paper and then wait 15, I forget the exact thing, but it had to be the hearings and then published in the paper and then a wait period. And the ordinance went into effect in Dickinson County on May 9th. So it is now in effect. And I just wanted to point those things out to you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So, Ty, give your hand up.
And I kinda lost my track of how I wanted to ask this. You know, we can do an ordinance and, I don't know what it'll, I mean, not that it won't accomplish anything, but I don't know what it will accomplish other than most likely a lawsuit, but if we keep talking about the safety aspect. But, my concern is, and I'll ask you guys, what have you learned from the research or the findings in Louisiana that would help you facilitate a better degree of safety to our county, that we could be rest assured that you're going to do, and obviously for those that are wanting to know these things, what kind of a written guarantee that you're gonna do better at warning our folks, trying to avoid this particular type of thing. I mean, obviously, you can't see every potential problem no better than this board can, or these people could. I mean, they've learned a lot along the way, and they're keeping us informed. But with the PHMSA thing being the rights of safety, and the IUB being the rights of path, I mean, we can make ordinances, and I'm not against an ordinance, but what does it accomplish other than now they're not talking to us and they're mad at us, or vice versa? You see what I'm saying? I mean, I most of the time our farmers operate, whether they're pork producers, big, large cattle operations or whatever, we work on a good neighbor contract, and it's kind of a handshake type contract, but it's still, you know, where we're trying to get along and work together. We see what you're trying to do. You can argue the validity and the necessity of it all you'd like, because there's always 2 sides to every story. But the fact is we might be dealing with this, and what can we do in the good neighbor world right now? That's, to me, it sounds like it's a lot quicker way to a safe environment for our folks than it is sitting in a courtroom. So that's my question to you guys. Where are we at with what you've learned and what can help Crawford County if you can build there?
Yeah, what I would say is, you know, it's all lessons learned. Unfortunately, we've learned, fortunately and unfortunately, we've learned quite a bit from a company connected to this same line that we're talking about in Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
It was a launcher site, I believe maybe a 30-inch line. They had a gasket seal issue with the launcher, quite a significant release. I think the timing of it, and the biggest lesson learned, the timing of the notification process was quite a bit delayed. They did have a shelter in place for a quarter mile, and I've looked over quite a bit of the area. It was a decently populated area, and kind of, you know, a mixed bag of structural integrity of households in the area. The shelter in place worked really well, no injuries. I know the gentleman who took the picture for the article that I saw was maybe, I think I measured maybe 300 feet from a full release happening. So once things got in place and the shelter in place order was established, it seemed like everything was under control relatively fast. They let it release, no incident. The fact that there was an incident is the issue. Now, whether PHMSA will give out a full report like they did the Starch, Mississippi incident, that takes a little bit of time to kind of see where the downfall was, where the critical issue that caused the release, how it was caused. I know one thing with Summit, something we're working on, and something we will implement is a notification system similar to like where I come from, Springdale, Arkansas. We have a tornado warning. I've opted in. It gives me an alert on my phone. Whether people want to opt into that or not is gonna be a discussion we work through with Greg and the emergency management department, and making sure we spread as much awareness about that as humanly possible, whether you're in a specific area or there might be an option just to opt in, just to know if anything were to happen. So another benefit we have is being based in Iowa. I think our response times are gonna be quite a bit quicker. I know
Where was
specifically,
the people based out of that were part of this one?
they're nationwide.
So their office, they didn't have anything in Louisiana that,
Well, it happened at a facility, so there would have been employees there. So I don't know where the hangup is unless they just weren't there at the time when it happened. It did happen kind of later into the evening.
6 p.m.,
6 p.m., yeah. So
took 2 hours.
yeah, the notification time was lacking. I think that was very similar to the Satartia incident where,
The notification was on Facebook, but
yeah.
our discussion is just, yeah, we, the update, yeah. we're kind of
well,
trying to
but I mean, that's where I'm wanting to go. I mean, do we need a,
Collins time.
So one of the things that they had, that they didn't have, that we're gonna implement is real-time, leak detection. So at every one of our sites, we're gonna have, pressure and temperature indicators that feed back to our control room, real time, that give off those detections.
and they didn't have
They
it?
did not have that.
Interesting.
So immediately, once that leak starts, we're gonna see a reduction in temperature and pressure at that site that will give our control room a
You have
notification.
someone manning that control room 24/7?
Yes, sir.
We're gonna take just one more little deal and then we're gonna have to wrap it up because our discussion is just kind of an update.
Just for
So when
your
was
record,
the-
what's your
Your name?
So,
For Richard Dove, I'm the construction manager for Iowa.
yeah, just wanna make sure you get that right.
Yes, sir.
My last question would be, when was the last time you were in contact with our EMA department, or how is it going on our training? And that's just an update that I feel our board needs to know.
Oh, as far as our project is concerned, I know, I've still been coordinating with Greg. I talked to him quite a bit, and I know he's had quite a bit going on lately, and we're in no particular hurry, but we still plan on sitting down and going over, specific dispersion modeling for the county. We'd like to invite supervisors. I know he's trying to coordinate with the fire chief, and we're trying to get as many people in the room as humanly possible. That will not be a one-time thing, so if we miss somebody, it's not gonna be an issue. That'll also give us an opportunity to start going through, I heard SCBA's mentioned earlier, we're still, when it gets closer time to construction, we plan on gathering a list from Greg, and looking at some of the local fire department needs, and then we'll move into tabletop discussions or tabletop exercises before we go into operations, so.
So that's an update, so I appreciate that.
Not the dispersion modeling at this time,
Why?
due to the sensitivity of the information, and that's just the way it is right now. Yeah, that's something I can talk to you offline about,
So, on record, the people that are gonna be directly affected are gonna be the ones that are left in the dark.
we're taking some liberty to include more than just the emergency manager, so we'll have a representative of the citizens of Crawford County in the room, and they can dispense that information however they'd like to, so.
All right, very good. Thank you for the update. What we were here to just kind of get our ordinance kind of going again, and so I think, well, do we need to take action on, having him bring us in an ordinance? Or we're going, all right.
You
So
can do that.
discussion, I appreciate the update very much.
What's that? If Colin could get that together for us and we could go, put
Yeah.
it on the agenda and then
Yep.
we can go into closed
Were you
session.
in on the discussion of the 1,600 foot agreed setbacks up in Dickinson County, or can you at least get us a name of who was for that?
Yeah, I can maybe have Kaylee reach out. I know, Kaylee Langrell, I think she's been in here a couple times. I think she was there.
It'd be beneficial to us crafting this ordinance if we can get
Kaylee's
I mean, our
there.
ordinance
That's
is
Kylie.
Well, that's kind of.
Yeah.
Yours is Katie.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
highly Riley and
Kylie, Riley, Kaylee.
Yeah.
At least you got a different name.
Thank you. All right, so we kind of had everybody's questions answered. Everybody's good?
Yeah,
Good.
I know.
Colin, thanks for coming over.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right, so next week we will have an update from our attorney. All right, so our next item is discuss and take action on appointment of Jay Ford, Eileen Saylor, and Kyle Schultz to the Crawford County Area Solid Waste Agency Commission. Kyle is willing to serve again, so. Need a motion?
Yeah, all three of them are, that's how it,
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve those appointments.
Okay,
Second.
okay, all in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I vote aye. All right, that's been approved.
Get bored out there, and I'll break it up.
Take action. Approve HSA vendor. Who's that?
Right on time.
Look at that. Health savings account vendor.
Yeah, so we need to have someone, manage all the money that the HSA, the people that do the HSA, where that goes. So I called banks, local banks like, you guys wanted, got some information there, pretty much, all have the same setup fees, all of those kind of things, maintenance fees, all of that.
They all invested roughly the same, I mean, it's all.
Yeah, I mean, all the
Technical.
banks kind of seemed kind of the same deal. Still a little, not exactly sure how the money gets to them, those are the kind of things that I'm low key, maybe kind of worried about. Like how the file gets to them, or do we cut a check with a, like, not sure how the money gets to them. The other option was EBS. That is what Holmes Murphy had suggested. That was their, the thing that they brought to the table. And then, we also have the option of Task. And that is who our FSA is through. And I personally like this option because I know how it works. I know how, I know how the money gets there, those kind of things. We already have our FSA with them, so renewal fees, all of that, we're already paying that, so it would all be, there's not an extra fee for, yeah, there's no new fees for that. And the reason why I really like this option is, they offer a limited purpose FSA, so the people that currently have an FSA, we have a rollover that you can roll over. Like, I think it's $640 this year. So if they cannot get their balance down to zero and they have some money to roll over, if they sign up for the HSA, typically they would just lose that money. But we can offer the limited purpose FSA, and those people that choose an HSA, they can roll over up to $640 into that limited HSA,
And leave it there till,
FSA.
leave it there till it's gone?
Yeah, and it would just be used for like dental, vision, that kind of stuff. So that is, I guess, an advantage to do Task. And people already know it, people that have that FSA, they already know how it works. They get a card, so those are the options. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah,
Sounds like
so,
Task is
It sounds
I
like,
mean-
the main reason that I think we wanted to look at local bank options, because these are accounts that the employees can take with them no matter where they go.
right,
And if they're staying in Crawford County, as employment, that it would be convenient for them to have their HSA at a local bank. However, I think if you have your HSA at Task and you would leave, you could take those HSA funds, put them into the
anyway,
HSA at a local bank.
yeah, and
If you would so choose.
yeah, and I will also say Task is a very well-known nationwide company that deals with all of these kind of accounts. And I actually used Task before when I lived in Kansas City. So they are a big company that do all of these third-party administrations. So I think
They're
that,
national.
yeah, so I think that, a lot of employers do use them, so if they go somewhere else, they would, you know, it'd be an easy.
Florida fish full time, you can take it with you.
Yeah.
And you think task is a better option than EBS?
I personally do because we're already paying fees to them.
Be double.
So you would be doubled, you know, why pay more fees when
Amy's our
this
HR
company already
director.
does it?
That's her recommendation. I fully accept that.
Yep, and I think the fact that they
Sounds
can take their
direction.
own funds and move over.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a-
I move we appoint Task as our HSA vendor.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Your vote's aye, so we have a vendor for HSA.
Yes,
Thank you for the
Agreed.
presentation
I
and
think
the
that was-
research and all in the vein
Yeah.
and, yeah, it'll work for everybody.
And I will say, so we had the open enrollment meeting and I did give a shout out to the board for being very creative in making sure our insurance did not go up or it was at least a very minimal. And there were so many people that, you know, because benefits are a big deal, they were very excited. I mean, they were excited. They were very appreciative. I think a lot of people are very excited about that HSA.
They should
So, you know, I just wanted to bring it back to you because I talked to a lot of the people that they were appreciative of you guys doing what you could to keep the cost down and doing a better plan design
Thank
for
you for
us.
the shout
So,
out. Thank you for bringing back some good positive
Did-
feedback from our employees.
Everybody attend the meeting?
no, you are the only one.
Oh, okay. I thought the meetings were
You have
were
insurance?
good.
Yeah,
informative.
yeah.
Thought they did a good job.
You're gonna need
Yeah.
to sign up regardless of if you take it or not. So
Yeah, if you're not taking it, I need just a form saying that you're waiving coverage, so,
Pretty.
I am.
yeah, so thank you guys.
Thank you very, very much. Always
Thank you.
appreciate
I would have went.
and all you do.
So I was waiting for a briefing from you.
All right, we are down to the citizen input part of our
I think we
meeting.
have packets.
Anybody on Zoom or out in our?
I know that Cindy had something prior
Okay,
to, I saw
Cindy.
she popped up.
Cindy, do you still have something you want to bring up?
Is there any message on there that she said, any chat or,
No?
I thought I saw a message very early in our discussions.
Oh,
There she is.
I did ask about the solar when you were talking about that, if we have an ordinance in place for Crawford for solar, or if we're gonna be proactive and get one. I heard what Ty said as far as the neighbors. Once again, the neighbors will have no input on it, and they really should have a voice in the matter if you have to have a glare on your land because of something your neighbors did. That was my comment.
I don't believe that we do have an ordinance.
No, we don't.
So the only one we really have is for wind turbines.
That's
Basically.
more of a permit too. We need to probably consider finishing that off too. We got something in place quickly so that
Right.
if we had that Canadian outfit stop by and we wanted to get something, I mean, maybe we have to do a little bit more research on I know that, I was talking to one of the people that are down in Pot County and they're working on some stuff right now too, so.
Exactly.
That's another argument for another discussion for
Another day.
Exactly. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you, Cindy.
Everybody good?
Have some, I guess, these thoughts, comments, whatever, about advocating for a ordinance was drafted back in July of 23. And then again, it was updated in February, and I decided I'm gonna poop and get off a pot, let you folks see what I've been contemplating, put it in writing. You then can peruse at your convenience.
I appreciate it.
Let's take it back. You have any papers?
Yeah, I know.
That's a big help on that.
I just think that we need to do something. And I guess with the comment that you just made of alluding to the permit process with the windmills, we did something so that we could protect ourselves as a county. Unfortunately, this came in, house fire, and now we're in the situation that we are in. So I think that once something is established and there's nothing there to safeguard in the future, they'll bar the door.
I know.
So You know,
Keep plugging away.
I personally support the ethanol industry, but I'll tell you what, it was quite a revelation for me when we had our trustees meeting. And the $10,000 tax abatement was approved at the state level, not here at the county, but at the state level. That cost Denison Township $4,050 that we're gonna be able to provide for fire protection. And fire protection is going to be part of the emergency management and so forth, if we have an incident with this pipeline, if it comes through. Overall, the county, $224,454, we just kissed goodbye. Well, I remember looking at some of those large expenditures for road graders and dump trucks and gravel and the cost of the gravel. I mean, this 2.5 years that I've been involved, I've learned a lot about county government, so it has not been all for naught, but, I just really want to encourage the board to get something on the books, because something at this point, in my opinion, is better than nothing. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. Dave's in here from. All right, if we're done with citizen input, then I need a motion.
Here, up in the judge's room, as you go back, it's straight ahead.
I move we adjourn.
Electrical on the
Second,
wall.
Richard?
Talk to
Yes,
Karen.
I'll second
Yeah,
that.
yeah, sorry.
Favor
Thank
aye?
you.
All right, we have adjourned our meeting. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Appreciate all the input.
Thanks for
An
everything.
update. It's important. Thank you, Tim.
Tim, thanks
Appreciate
for
it very
that on
much.
paper.
All right.
You got to be here. It's gonna take us to your people and then we'll come back with them all checked off.
Oh.
Right?
No, hey, that's not appreciated. And I'll have,
Copy, public record. We'll have it.
yeah, I'll have, Kaylee call around sometime and people go down.
Yeah, see you on that.
All right.
You know, on that election. I think it's anybody can never copy with that.
Yeah.
We can bring the people.
Let's get more people's
attention than that.